It's Christmas Eve today of 2016, and this is the winter garden. We're going to take a tour that may or may not end up being quick, because there is, surprisingly, after several hard freezes and many sections being fully tundra several times already, there is still a lot going on. I've been going around the garden harvesting today, as well as making sure that, and these are still pending, I need to do this after I'm done, that the vines from the scrambling tomatoes are pulled out and put in the fire bin. I'm very selective about what I pull up, and that is because most branching items laid over the winter are going to be more beneficial than harmful. They're going to allow us to have the beneficial insects over winter. However, many of the annuals that aren't native to this region are disease carriers, and getting those out of the soil so that the winter can freeze out the disease better is preferable. That's true of squash vines and tomato vines and pepper, little pepper trees, which I've pulled out from this plot here. So that is absolutely something that I'm very selective about. Most of the overgrowth is going to be left. In the spring, I end up finding the nesting plots for mantises and all sort of other beneficials. So here we have sunchokes. I'm not going to harvest them this year unless I run out during the winter and we have a thaw day. Today it's 40 something. Tomorrow it's supposed to be low 50s, even though, you know, tomorrow's Christmas. And in through here I did cut down to the ground on some of the black currants because they have thickened too much. I couldn't get to the crops too easily, yada yada, and this is the time to do it. So I may thin these further because the branches get so thick it's hard to see where the berries are. Mainly this cutting back. I do also want to dig these out. I may plant them on the cliff. If anybody wants black currants, get in touch, as just roots pulled out of the ground. They're pretty easy to get started and very suckering. They will make a large plot for themselves wherever you put them. I've been pulling out the, we call these chiggers. They look like sweet woodruff in the leaf. Let's see if we can get this to focus. In the leaf pattern, they look like sweet woodruff, but they produce little sticky seeds. And while these are edible, they're also incredibly invasive, so it's better to pull them out because it's not like you're going to run short on them. These are naturalizing amongst the base of my blackcurrant. This is the Joe Pye weed. I recently was reminded that this plant makes a very beneficial tea. Is edible but not recommended in much amounts. I do love the way the tall branches look against the backdrop, and many of my hunting critters seem to want to live in the base. I often see the little gardener snakes, sweeties, down in there. Over here we're going to see that there are quite a few. These are radish seed pods, and I have naturalized radishes in here. So what I do in the winter is attempt to get these seed pods to flop back toward, oh, and one of these is actually a tomato. This is tomato. Let's see if I can fish that out. And then the seed pods are all laying here. Now I did, as we walk down, you will see, I did harvest several radishes today. Some of them are actually cooking currently. I hope I don't overcook them in doing this video. They're going to be delicious. This plot has many many radishes, and some of them are doing this thick root at the top, and then there's another bulb below, and the leaves are delicious to eat if you've never had radish greens. I mean, they're not good raw because they're fuzzy, but once you cook them, it's as good as spinach. And then in here you can see what I harvested, and also that I didn't clean this basket out. There are stuck-on tomatoes from earlier in the year that are certainly full of seeds. So, if anybody wants seeds for the guerrilla gardening tomato, also let me know. They overwinter no matter what. I'm here in Pittsburgh anyway. Oh, and I have a friend in Massachusetts I sent him to that they do as well. The seeds drop and then they come back the next year. It's zero maintenance. This was all tomatoes this year, and I cleaned this up pretty well. There were tomatoes along the back here. That's my neighbor's property. And one of my favorite things to do now through February is get rocks where I need them to be. There were 2 bricks here before, and it was absolutely awful. I kept falling because bricks, they open up and they fall over while you're stepping on them. Here's my Saskatoon. There's my tart cherry. There's another Saskatoon on the other side. We're going to see that I can now easily, oops, that rock's flippy, place my feet one after the other. I'm trying to decide what I'm going to do with this area. This is another edible, but another very invasive plant. Wintercress. It will often put up seeds midwinter. It stays evergreen and is pretty intense. Alright, so in here I did plant a bunch of seeds. I find it interesting the raised gardens are more tundra frozen than the in-ground, so I put, this is an experiment, squash seeds, because I found that if I drop squashes in the yard, I end up with squash plants. So, there and there, and then you can see the screen covering this. That's a lettuce patch that I'm starting, and over here, those are parsnips seeds, and we'll see how they do. And you can see the yellow sedum tendriling out over everything. That's my green mulch layer. The asparagus is left to stand. I've only cut this down for winter once, and that was because it was having a terrible year with asparagus beetles, and I knew there were eggs all through. And I was able to save the plant by cutting it down that year. In here there may or may not be 6 new rhubarbs next year. The crown died, but the root tendrils coming off of it were still in great condition, so I've planted those out, and we'll see how they do. Alright, this is an old carrot, and in it are seeds, but I haven't had any of them seed for me, so that might end up coming out, because it's just kind of like a friend. It's not a useful plant, it's just a friend. Let's take this. Up front here, this is a sage plant. I believe this is a hollyhock that's come up, and it's really funny because yesterday all these little snipped bits came evident, and over here it's like something snipped off the leaves and then dropped them. I'm confused. In here we have borage, which petals and leaves have a cucumber-like taste, and all along either side, this was my squash bed this year. However, the fancy tomatoes I planted, I pitched the ones that went rotten in here, and I'm hoping to get more fancy tomato types next year. You can see one that just is still sitting on the surface. So if any of the seeds overwinter, that'll be great. My apple tree left 1 apple until solstice day. I saw it, and it had frozen to the core. It was such a sweet candy apple. That was amazing. Back here, the Strawberries are doing well. Some of them are staying evergreen still. Many of them have died back to the corms. This one's still evergreen. This one, if I can get it to focus, that one is the corm. Many of them are corms. This one's on its way out. It's still slightly green, but letting go of that idea as well. This is a weed, and I don't want it to get established right there, because it would be really hard to fish out from the root structure once it's bigger. Yeah, pack the dirt right up against those roots again so they don't stay exposed over the winter. There's another strawberry plant. Interspersed in here are also violets. So this is the strawberry plot and mud slugs for paths. Still trying to decide what I'm going to do about that. Out here, I'd like to finish digging out. This is unwanted grass in my lawn. I have a mixed variety of plants instead of grass, and unfortunately this year the grass really took over this section and it's choking everything else out, and that is definitely not what I want. I was able to dig it out over here pretty well, although I see I have another little tufty right here. These are chives, this is grass. So this whole section was grass, and you can see it filled in pretty nice. Right here, what I have is spread seed for pyrethrum daisies, a low-growing variety that's only supposed to get 6 to 8 inches high. Will be a really nice lawn additive, because I have been getting ticks in here, and those are supposed to, the daisies are supposed to help deter ticks. So I'm hoping that that will intersperse and naturalize here. There are several more seeds, and I'm going to continue to plant them as there are breaks in the winter, and in the spring if they don't overwinter then I'll try again, but I think that'll do well. I know they can be a bit invasive, so that shouldn't be a problem getting them started. I did not take up the leaves this year, and last time I didn't take up the leaves I regretted it, so I may try and get a chance at doing that as well, because leaves are good. So here we have the cliff. Oh, and we've walked past a couple times, but I haven't pointed out just how many of the tomato vines I've collected. There's about 3 feet height of tomato vine ready to be burned when I do my burning. I'm also considering moving the bench, and I've realized that once I do I could probably train tomatoes up over it. I just don't know where I'm going to put it. That is for sure. Like, if it's not there, where kind of moment. But I would love to have 2 dwarf orchard trees right here instead, so I'll figure it out. In here we have comfrey, which has remained green still and is now got a whole bunch of oak leaves with it. And then these are the raspberries that I brought from the side planting. The elderberries are just bare branches, and the rose has like squishy rotten hips on it, rose hips. So that is what the garden is doing here on December 24th of 2016. It's going just fine. Up in there I have a bit of old mattress that is a dark plastic that will hopefully kill off a lot of the weeds up there. My goal is in the next year or two to have that prepped enough that I can do wine cap mushrooms. That's the idea. So I hope you're having a lovely holiday, whatever it is that you celebrate, and that you have a nice winter as well. We've only got about 3 months worth of it, of full winter. If you don't count the snaps of winter warm, there's really only 2 to 3 months of winter. If you count the period of time where it's warm for 3 days and below freezing for 3 days, we've got a lot more. But I've been making very, very good use of these vacillating weather days in the garden, and I'm doing a lot of research at the same time because I'd like to introduce a lot more perennial food crops soon, very soon. Happy holidays! Bye.